Heritage Oaks cultivated an image of quiet, suburban perfection. Wide streets lined with mature oak trees, the namesake, neatly trimmed hedges, and houses that spoke of comfortable living. It was the kind of place brochures showcased with smiling families and golden retrievers. Its reputation for good schools and low crime made it a desirable haven for families seeking safety and opportunity. For David and Maria Washington, Heritage Oaks represented a dream realized. David was a successful architect, Maria ran a thriving online graphic design business, and their two children, Marcus, 15, and Lily, 7, were bright and energetic. They had worked hard, saved diligently, and finally found a home they could afford in a neighborhood they believed would offer their children the best start. The sprawling ranch-style house on Magnolia Lane, with its large backyard and mature trees, felt like the perfect place to set down roots. Moving day was a blur of boxes, laughter, and the happy chaos that accompanies starting anew. A few neighbors stopped by with cookies or friendly waves, offering genuine welcomes. The Washingtons felt a sense of cautious optimism. They knew they would likely be one of the few black families in Heritage Oaks, a reality they had navigated in other aspects of their lives. They were prepared to be good neighbors, respectful of the community's standards. Their first formal introduction to the Heritage Oaks Homeowners Association came via a neatly printed welcome packet, filled with bylaws, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, CC and RS, a thick binder that outlined everything from approved fence heights to the exact day trash cans could be placed at the curb. Alongside the packet was a flyer introducing the HOA board members, prominently featuring a photo of Brenda Sterling, the president, smiling warmly, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Brenda's bio highlighted her long residency in Heritage Oaks and her dedication to preserving the character and values of our cherished community. Within the first week, as David was still unpacking boxes, a car pulled up slowly in front of their house. Brenda Sterling emerged, impeccably dressed, and walked towards their yard, clipboard in hand. "Mr. and Mrs. Washington," she asked, her voice polite but with an underlying tone of officialdom. "I'm Brenda Sterling, HOA president. Just wanted to personally welcome you." "Oh, hello Miss Sterling," David replied, extending a hand. "David Washington. This is my wife, Maria." Maria smiled warmly. "It's lovely to meet you. We're so excited to be here." Brenda offered a tight smile. "Welcome. Heritage Oaks is a special place. We take great pride in our community standards. I noticed you have a moving truck still parked on the street. Our CC and RS specify vehicles should not remain parked on the street for more than 24 hours, especially commercial vehicles. Just a friendly reminder." David glanced at the truck, still half full, but well within the curb line. "Ah, yes. We're working on it. Should be gone by tomorrow evening." "Excellent," Brenda said, ticking something on her clipboard. Her eyes scanned their front yard, lingering for a moment on a small decorative welcome mat with an African-inspired pattern Maria had placed by the front door. "And the lawn looks like it could use its first trim since you've arrived. Just a note to keep on top of it." "Will do," David said, feeling a slight shift in the atmosphere. The initial welcome felt less about neighborliness and more about an immediate inspection. "Wonderful," Brenda concluded, tucking away her clipboard. "Feel free to reach out if you have any questions about the CC and RS. We're all about maintaining our property values and ensuring Heritage Oaks remains." Heritage Oaks. The last phrase hung in the air, carrying an unspoken weight that settled uncomfortably with the Washingtons. As Brenda drove away, David and Maria exchanged a look. It was the look of people who recognized the subtle undercurrents, the hint that perhaps their presence itself was already being assessed through a lens of community standards that might not be as neutral as the bylaws suggested. The initial interaction with Brenda Sterling set a tone of heightened scrutiny. It started subtly. A polite email reminder about trash cans being put out no earlier than 6 p.m. the day before pickup. A notice about a single weed spotted near their mailbox. The Washingtons, determined to be model residents and avoid any conflict, promptly complied with every suggestion and rule, often going above and beyond. Their lawn was immaculate, their trash cans were handled with military precision, and not a weed dared show its face. But the notices didn't stop. They became more frequent, more subjective, and increasingly targeted at aspects of their life that felt undeniably personal, cloaked in the language of community standards. A complaint arrived about excessive noise during a Saturday afternoon barbecue. The Washingtons had family over, including cousins with young children. There was laughter, music playing softly from a portable speaker, well below city noise ordinance levels, and the general happy clamor of a family gathering. Meanwhile, across the street, the O'Malleys were hosting a pool party with loud music and shouting that carried much further, yet received no HOA notice. Then came a formal warning about unapproved exterior decorations regarding the small, tasteful welcome mat with the African pattern. The notice stated all mats must be plain and neutral in color. Yet, 3 doors down, the Millers had a large mat shaped like a flip-flop that had been there for years without issue. Maria reluctantly replaced the mat with a bland beige one. Another notice cited parking violations during a weekend when Maria's parents visited and parked their car on the street overnight, directly in front of the Washingtons' house. The CC&RS mentioned limiting guest street parking, but this was rarely enforced unless multiple cars blocked traffic. Again, the O'Malleys frequently had multiple guests' cars parked on the street during parties, often for longer periods, without complaint. The pattern became undeniable. Brenda Sterling, and by extension, the HOA she controlled, was using the rules as a weapon, specifically targeting the Washington family in ways that other residents were not. Each notice, each complaint, was a paper cut designed to make them feel unwelcome, scrutinized, and exhausted. Maria's home business also became a source of veiled complaints. She occasionally had clients pick up design mock-ups, typically a quick in and out. A notice arrived citing excessive commercial traffic in a residential zone. Maria knew this was absurd. The traffic generated was minimal compared to the regular flow of delivery trucks or even teenage drivers coming and going from other homes. The stress began to weigh on the family. David found himself constantly scanning their property, looking for potential violations. Maria felt her home, her sanctuary, was under constant surveillance. Marcus, sensitive to the tension, started noticing subtle changes in how some neighbors interacted with him, fewer friendly waves, a certain distance. He heard whispers about those new people at school from kids whose parents lived in Heritage Oaks. "It's not just the rules, David," Maria said one evening, sitting at their kitchen table, surrounded by a growing pile of HOA notices. "It's us. She doesn't like us here. She's using the rules to try and manage us. To make us uncomfortable enough to leave." David clenched his jaw. "I know, honey. I feel it too. Every time I see her car drive by slowly, or I get another ridiculous email. It's exhausting. But we belong here. We bought this house fair and square. Our kids are starting school here." The unspoken reality hung between them. This wasn't just about landscaping or parking. This was about race. This was about a woman, Brenda Sterling, who, for reasons rooted in prejudice, did not believe a family like theirs belonged in her Heritage Oaks. They tried reaching out to other board members, explaining the disproportionate targeting. The responses were polite but non-committal. "Brenda takes the rules very seriously," one member told David over the phone. "She's just trying to maintain standards." It became clear that challenging Brenda directly within the HOA structure she controlled would be difficult. The quiet compliance that had long defined Heritage Oaks worked in her favor. The Washingtons decided they wouldn't be driven out. They shifted from simply complying to meticulously documenting everything. Every complaint, every notice, the date and time of every perceived act of surveillance or disparity in rule enforcement. They took photos of other houses with similar violations that went unnoticed. They started building a case, not just against the notices, but against the pattern of discriminatory harassment. The turning point came during preparations for Lily's 8th birthday party. It was a simple backyard celebration planned for a Saturday afternoon, close family and a few of Lily's new friends from school. Maria decided to hang string lights around the back patio and place a few brightly colored balloons and streamers in the backyard, visible only from their property but adding a festive touch. She also planned to put a small inflatable bouncy castle in the yard for a few hours during the party. A few days before the party, an email arrived from Brenda Sterling, CC'd to the entire board. It wasn't a standard notice, it was more insidious. It referenced recent observations of decorations being erected and questioned whether prior approval had been sought for such temporary structures as bouncy castles, citing concerns about aesthetic impact and potential safety liabilities for the association. It felt preemptive and overly scrutinizing. Maria, feeling a surge of anger mixed with despair, responded politely, explaining it was for her daughter's birthday party, the lights and balloons were temporary decorations, and the bouncy castle would be up for only a few hours, fully insured. Brenda's reply was immediate and cold. While temporary decorations are permitted within reason, they should not be excessive or detract from the neighborhood's aesthetic harmony. Furthermore, bouncy castles are considered recreational equipment and their use may require a temporary use permit application for review by the Architectural Review Committee due to potential noise and visual impact. This was beyond absurd. Every family with young children in Heritage Oaks had bouncy castles for parties without permits or complaints. This was a direct, undeniable attempt to interfere with their daughter's birthday celebration. David and Maria looked at each other, their patience exhausted. This was no longer just about fines or notices, it was about denying their children a normal, joyful experience in their own home, based on flimsy, selectively enforced pretexts. "That's it," David said, his voice low but firm. "She's crossed a line. We're not asking for permission to have a birthday party for our daughter. This is harassment, plain and simple. And it's because of who we are." Maria nodded, tears of frustration in her eyes. "We need to fight this. Not just the bouncy castle. All of it. For Marcus, for Lily. For us." They contacted a lawyer specializing in fair housing and discrimination cases. The lawyer reviewed their meticulous documentation, the stack of notices, the timeline, the photos of other houses with similar, or worse, violations that went unpunished, the emails with Brenda. The lawyer confirmed their suspicions. They had a strong case for a pattern of discriminatory harassment based on race, using the HOA rules as a cover. The lawyer advised them on their options, including formal complaints to federal agencies and, significantly, confronting the HOA board directly with their findings, potentially threatening legal action if the behavior didn't stop. They decided on the latter as a first step, a public confrontation at the next HOA meeting, backed by the knowledge they had legal recourse. They sent a formal letter to the HOA board, detailing their grievances and requesting a significant block of time on the agenda to present evidence of discriminatory harassment by the HOA president, Brenda Sterling. The letter, drafted with the lawyer's guidance, was firm and unambiguous about the potential legal ramifications if the situation was not addressed. The air in Heritage Oaks grew even more tense. Word of the Washingtons' intention spread like wildfire. Neighbors chose sides, some whispering support for the Washingtons, others muttering darkly about lawsuits and the disruption of their peaceful community. Brenda, sensing her control slipping, reportedly became even more rigid and defensive, denying all accusations and claiming the Washingtons were simply troublemakers unwilling to follow rules. The Washingtons prepared for the meeting not just with documents, but with emotional resolve. They practiced speaking calmly, focusing on the facts and the impact of the harassment. Marcus, seeing his parents struggle and understanding the underlying issue more deeply, decided he wanted to speak too, to share how the tension and scrutiny had made him feel. The community clubhouse felt stifling the night of the HOA meeting. It was packed, standing room only, far more people than ever attended routine meetings. Brenda Sterling sat at the head of the board table, her usual veneer of calm authority visibly strained. Her smile was gone, replaced by a taut, defensive expression. The initial parts of the meeting, approving minutes, financial reports, felt like mere preludes to the main event. When Brenda finally announced the item requested by the Washington family, her voice was clipped. Next on the agenda, she announced, looking directly at David and Maria, who sat together with Marcus and Lily in the front row, we have a presentation from Mr. and Mrs. Washington regarding their concerns about rule enforcement. She deliberately downplayed it. You have 20 minutes. David stood first, holding a thick binder. Maria and Marcus stood beside him. Lily sat quietly, holding Maria's hand. Thank you, Miss Sterling, members of the board, neighbors, David began, his voice steady and clear, commanding attention. We moved to Heritage Oaks seeking a safe, welcoming community for our family. We believed in the idea of community standards, and we have made every effort to be good neighbors and comply with the rules. He opened the binder. However, since moving in, we have experienced a consistent, escalating pattern of targeted harassment by the HOA president, Brenda Sterling, under the guise of enforcing those standards. A murmur went through the room. Brenda scoffed quietly into her microphone, but David didn't break stride. We have documented, he continued, presenting pages from his binder, over 50 instances of notices, emails, and direct confrontations regarding perceived violations. Many are trivial, a single weed, trash cans out moments too early. Others are more concerning, complaints about family gatherings, guest parking, even temporary decorations for a child's birthday party. He paused, looking at the faces in the audience. On their own, some might seem like overzealous rule enforcement. But when viewed collectively, and compared to how these same rules are applied to other residents, a clear and disturbing pattern emerges. Maria stepped forward, her voice firm despite the emotion in her eyes. We have photos of other properties with unaddressed violations, overgrown bushes, persistent holiday decorations left up for months, multiple cars parked on the street regularly. These properties, primarily owned by our white neighbors, receive no such scrutiny. Our small welcome mat was deemed an unapproved decoration, while others display far more prominent items without comment. Marcus then stepped up, holding a few sheets of paper. He looked nervous, but determined. Living here, it felt like we were always being watched. Like we couldn't just be ourselves. I heard things at school, from kids whose parents live here. They talked about our house, about the complaints. It made me feel like I didn't belong. Like we weren't wanted here because we're different. His voice cracked slightly on the last word, a powerful testament to the emotional toll of the harassment. David took over again, his voice hardening slightly. Ms. Sterling's actions have gone beyond rule enforcement. They constitute targeted harassment and, we believe, are motivated by racial prejudice. We have documented instances where her comments or complaints seemed directly tied to our identity as a Black family, questioning the nature of our gatherings, the appearance of our guests, even attempting to disrupt our daughter's birthday party with absurd demands for permits for a bouncy castle. He looked directly at Brenda. You have weaponized the rules of this community to make our lives miserable. You have tried to use bureaucracy to drive us out simply because we are Black. Brenda erupted. This is outrageous. False accusations. I have done nothing but uphold the standards agreed upon by everyone. They are playing the victim. They just don't want to follow the rules like everyone else. Her face was red, her hands shaking. Following the rules means they are applied equally, Maria stated, her voice cutting through Brenda's outburst. You have not applied them equally, Ms. Sterling. You have applied them punitively and selectively against us. David held up another document. We have consulted with legal counsel. We have a strong case demonstrating discriminatory practices and harassment by the HOA president. This behavior violates fair housing laws and could expose this association and its members to significant legal liability. The mention of legal action sent a jolt through the room. Residents began whispering, their faces shifting from passive observers to concerned stakeholders. Then, a neighbor from down the street, Mrs. Evans, a longtime resident, stood up. I've lived here 20 years. I've seen the complaints the Washingtons have gotten. I've also seen things on other properties go unnoticed. It's not right. This isn't the Heritage Oaks I thought I knew. This isn't about rules, it's about how people are being treated. And the Washingtons haven't been treated fairly. Other residents, emboldened, began to voice their agreement. The quiet compliance that had insulated Brenda for so long began to crumble under the weight of truth and public disapproval. A board member, Mr. Chen, looking visibly uncomfortable but resolute, addressed Brenda. "Brenda, the evidence presented, the pattern is difficult to deny. This is a serious matter. Our role is to protect the community, not to engage in or permit discriminatory practices." A motion was made from the floor to immediately suspend Brenda Sterling from her position as HOA president and board member pending a full, independent investigation into the allegations of discriminatory harassment, and to have the board formally review all complaints and fines issued to the Washington family. The motion was seconded quickly. Brenda screamed, "You can't do this. This is my community. I built this." But her protests were ignored. A vote was called. The board members, facing legal threats and public condemnation, voted unanimously to suspend her. The residents in the room echoed their support with a loud show of hands. Defeated, exposed, and visibly enraged, Brenda Sterling gathered her papers with trembling hands and stormed out of the clubhouse, the sound of the door slamming echoing the definitive end of her reign of harassment. In the aftermath of the tumultuous HOA meeting, Heritage Oaks began a slow but significant shift. Brenda Sterling not only resigned from the board but also quietly put her house on the market a few months later, ostracized by the community she had sought to control. The HOA, under interim leadership and guided by the lawyer's recommendations, underwent a thorough review of its practices. All fines and warnings issued to the Washingtons were formally rescinded, accompanied by a heartfelt written apology from the association acknowledging the discriminatory nature of the harassment they had endured. Policies were clarified to ensure they complied with fair housing laws, and training was implemented for board members on diversity, equity, and inclusion. More importantly, the social atmosphere in Heritage Oaks began to change. The tension that had hung in the air around the Washingtons' home dissipated. Neighbors who had been silent or distant came forward to express their regret for not speaking up sooner, offering genuine warmth and friendship. Lily's friends and their parents were openly welcoming. Marcus found that the whispers at school faded, replaced by respect for his family's courage. The Washingtons, though scarred by the experience, found strength in their victory and the newfound support. They decided to stay in Heritage Oaks, not just because they had won, but because they had fought for their right to belong there. They became active members of the community, joining committees and working to ensure the HOA became a truly equitable and welcoming body for all residents, regardless of their background. David continued his architecture work, Maria's business thrived, and Marcus and Lily flourished in their schools and neighborhood activities. The small welcome mat with the African pattern reappeared by their front door, a quiet symbol of their identity and their right to express it in their home. The bouncy castle made a triumphant return for Lily's next birthday, complete with neighbors' kids invited to join the fun, no permits required. Sitting on their porch one evening, watching Marcus and Lily play catch in the yard with a neighbor's child, David put his arm around Maria. "Look at that," he said softly. "We made it." Maria leaned into him, smiling. "We didn't just make it, David. We made a difference. We showed them what Heritage Oaks really can be." Their home on Magnolia Lane was no longer just a house, it was a testament to their resilience, their dignity, and the power of standing up against prejudice. They had planted their roots deep, and this time, they knew they were truly home. May our story encourage us to look beyond the surface, question unequal treatment, and actively work towards building communities where diversity is celebrated, rules are applied equitably, and all residents feel truly at home.